Hi, everyone. Welcome to another great episode. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Breezy Beaumont, who's the head of growth and marketing at Correlated. And Correlated is doing some really, really cool things around product led growth. We're going to talk all about it today with Breezy. So, hey, Breezy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And I can see that you've had quite an experience in the last several years with different types of roles in SaaS companies, and now you're about 6 months into your new role at at Correlated. Can you just tell us a little bit about how that's been and what type of exposure or skills you've developed and what has led you to this point now in your career?
Yeah, for sure. So I've worked at a range of software companies across what range meaning what we actually offer as a product, who our target buyers are, the size of the company. So I feel like I got a really solid background on a lot of different types of companies, and that sort of led me to where I am today on choosing Correlated, and the product that we have in the market that we serve was very intentional, and same with my role here at Correlated. So I think I started my career in a more traditional marketing sense and started to move towards this idea of growth marketing and being more cross-functional with the sales and customer success and product teams. And in that same breath, I think that's one of the big things that drove me over to Correlated, because our product helps sort of enable that for other teams as well.
hmm How has it been so far in the last 6 months?
It has been a wild ride. I think if you talk to anybody who works for a startup, it's a lot of things, right? Like, it's so much fun. It's a blast. You get to do a ton of work, but at the same time, it's exactly that. It's a ton of work. Every day
hmm
is different, and so that makes it really exciting. But you also need to stay on your toes and be able to learn fast, fail fast, break things, and get back on track again.
Yeah. What I can see from, according to LinkedIn, you all have about just 13 employees. Is that about right?
Yep. Yeah,
So I'm
exactly.
guessing a
12
lot
or
of people are
15.
wearing a lot of different hats. Yeah, and I also read about the seed funding that happened recently. So I think, yeah, that's also really exciting. What's coming next for Correlated? What is the big milestone? How fast are you all growing in terms of people, and what are you aiming at next in the growth journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, from the internal perspective, we're hiring a bunch of new roles again right now. So, growing really quickly and hiring new folks, but trying to be intentional in that hiring, making sure that, it is truly a role that we need, and it is truly going to be a fit for the other person moving into that role, knowing that startups are fast moving, and then also Correlated is in a new space, moving towards this future state of product led growth, and riding that wave with other companies as they venture into that land as well.
hmm
We've been, and then from the product and onboarding customers perspective, so we launched publicly, GA in early August, and that's at the same time that we announced our funding. We sort of launched both at the same time. Um,
hmm
and we had so much inbound traffic. It was an amazing problem to have, but it was also, it was a lot. We had to get it together and split up who could be talking to different companies, and we wanted to really make sure that everyone's successful and getting value. And so, we're hand onboarding a lot of our customers today, and we want to make sure that
hmm
everything, all their different data sets are integrated correctly, and that they're getting value out of it, and helping their team to understand the best way to get value out of it. So, it's been a
hmm
wild ride of onboarding a bunch of folks, and also just trying to get out into the market and talk to more people. And
hmm
so definitely more of that to come, and a lot of learnings along the way in that process.
Yeah, that's great. How many people do you have on your marketing team?
So right now I am a lone soldier of one on the
All right.
marketing team. Yeah. So I'm hiring an SDR. We should have 1 to 2 SDRs on my team pretty shortly, that will help with some of that more targeted outbound, but also with driving more of our brand awareness, and that community and brand awareness has been a big driver for inbound for us. So instead
Okay.
of what 5 years ago may have been, creating an ebook that then you gate and people download it and you get these leads and you nurture them, there is some extent of nurturing folks along the way, but a big piece of what we're doing is getting out into the community and helping to solve problems for people and be a productive resource for them, so that we're sort of
Hmm.
their go-to person for information, and then we can help them be successful in their journey of balancing the sales and product-led acts.
Yeah. So the next person is going to be an SDR, and you focus a lot on middle top of the funnel, building that brand. That's I totally agree with that. I mean, I think at this stage now, especially as you're blazing a trail, I mean, I consider you and correlated not to neatly fit into an existing category, because I was doing a bit of trying to figure out where exactly do you fit, who are the competitors, and it's not very clear cut to me. And I guess that's why you all are building what you're building, is that you want to blaze a new trail, you want to do something innovative. And I think especially when a SaaS company is one of those first movers and trying to create a new category, you can't just go to the bottom of the funnel and just go to paid search and expect people to be looking for you, because that's just not there. You're building something that people don't really know about yet. So you've got to really invest in getting your brand out there and connecting that with a core value prop, keeping it relatively simple, and it is a lot of top of funnel, and I think that you can't, uh, like the old fashioned way, floating out an ebook and gating everything that you consider premium content. I mean, forget that. Those days are totally over. If anything, give away 100%. I mean, focus on education, give away 100%, and you can always remarket to people, and you can move them through the funnel with remarketing. And you have all these enrichment tools also, so you really don't need forms in the way that you used to. Uh, so that's really cool. It sounds like you have a lot on your plate right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
definitely. I mean, I think it's the case when you are building a new category, especially. I think this is sort of the case for any modern marketer these days, is to sort of move towards this
mhm,
approach anyways. But you know there isn't there aren't existing tools that solve what Correlated solves today. So there are some
mhm,
existing tools that help you understand how people use your product, and there are existing tools that sales lives in, like Salesforce, or HubSpot
yeah.
CRM, or whatever that is. But there's a lack of being able to not only get notified on how people are using your product and pairing that up with your traditional sales data in your CRM. So that's kind of a miss today. And then also being able to quickly take action on that product. So
Mhm,
I don't want to have to jump into a product analytics tool as a salesperson. That's not going to be a strong fit for me. Or looking at like a BI dashboard, it's not a good fit for a business user, sales or marketing, to jump into a tool like that. And so what Correlated does is we help to tie together all those data sources, so you can layer together some of the things that are important to you on the sales side, like, hey, I want to, or marketing side, like, hey, I want to talk to companies with over 200 employees who are in this geographical area, who all of the things that
mhm,
would normally be in your ICP, but then layer in how they actually use your product. It's like a game
mhm.
changer for teams. And it's so bizarre
Yeah,
that it's just been this gap in the market for so long. People have been, homegrown solutions, building these homegrown solutions to
yeah,
it internally. And so now we're working to
yeah,
bring that to market.
yeah. I have product-led growth is red hot right now, but I still see in most of the SaaS companies, B2B SaaS companies that we talk to that are not yet doing it, there's usually a couple of reasons predominantly. Number one is they think our product is just too complex. We
Mhm.
cannot dumb it down. We can't do a sandbox. We can't create that experience because the user won't, they just won't get the value. We created something so, so customizable or whatever it may be, complex. So reason number one is we just simply we cannot create that kind of an experience where people can just dive in and start playing around. Most of the time, I believe that they can be talked out of that. The second reason is I think one of the things that Correlated is solving for is that even if you go product led growth, but if you don't have the other tools or signals in place to tell you what's happening and to tell you how to act on certain things, like just your examples, if you have somebody who is a really heavy user in that 14-day trial period, and also it's a great ICP match, and it's a large enterprise with X more than X number of employees, or it's in that sweet spot industry that you're going for, or whatever it might be, you still need, you can't have a salesperson try to dig out that data. That has to be surfaced, ideally surfaced on top of the stack they're working in, not try to make them go into another tool. And I think that is what Correlated is doing. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, just like
Okay.
any other tool, you have the ability, of course, to log into Correlated, but we also understand that, like, it's not our intention is to give people the data they need to do their job effectively, to do their job well. And part of that journey is that people don't want to leave the systems that they're already in, right? So we push things into
Yeah.
Slack. We and with all the information that they're going to need to take action off of, we can push that notification
Hmm.
for them into Slack. We can kick off and automate outreach sequences or sales loft sequences. So yeah, and
Hmm.
again, putting things into Salesforce as well. So all the places that you live today are
Yeah.
the places that we're integrating with, and we're basically taking like what people are doing today to like the next level for some companies, and for other companies who just have
Yeah.
no access to how people are actually using their product today. Like maybe the product teams do, but the rest of
Hmm.
the revenue teams don't. Then giving
Yeah.
them those insights is,
Hmm. I was introduced to a new term when I got to, as I was researching Correlated, the term was product led revenue. And I thought, wait, does that, did they did they mean product led growth? But then there's references to product led growth. Can you help me out there? What's the difference between product led revenue and product led growth?
yeah. So product led revenue is the idea of understanding how people are actually using your product to unlock revenue opportunities. So, based on how people are using your product, here's an opportunity for you to convert that free trial or freemium user to being paid or to their next level of being paid. And then it's
Hmm.
also finding your existing customers and users and finding expansion opportunities inside of there. So that's all on the revenue side of the house. Product led
Okay.
growth is sort of that model of your go to market strategy for your company. So it's creating a product that works well and that people can onboard themselves into and that they can get value out of. It's aligning your marketing and sales and customer success teams. It's like a company wide strategy, rather than
Hmm.
just focusing on the revenue opportunities of that.
Okay. Would it be fair to say product led revenue then is a little bit more tactical and directly connected to sales and revenue, as opposed to product led growth, which is more like a
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah,
I
as you
think
say,
it's
go to
that
market
product led
motion.
growth companies would have a product led revenue solution in place, or a product led or an
Yeah.
approach to product led
Okay.
revenue.
So are you all trying to really claim that and own that term, product led revenue? Is that the term that you want to be most synonymous with?
I'd say that that seems to be what the case is. I think also some people
Uh-huh.
are positioning it as a product led growth CRM. So PLG CRM, which is like such a
Yeah, yeah.
mouthful. um,
That's a bit
but
wordy, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I can see I'm going to geek out a bit on the SEO side here, but your homepage title, your SEO title is product led revenue platform dash product PLG CRM. So I
yep.
think you're hedging your bets a little bit, but I think it's smart and it all fits. And ultimately, I guess the market will really decide if PLG CRM is the thing that sticks, or if product led revenue is something. But it looks like you all are putting two flags in the ground already, and owning both of those terms, and ultimately, the market and the customers are going to probably,
Yeah.
it'll become clear that one of those two terms is probably going to rise to the top.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's
And I think either way, the
mhm.
PLG CRM would still enable product led revenue, right? So they're all interconnected, and I'm not going to let a couple words get in the way of us being able to add value to somebody's sales process.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Um, All right. So now I have to ask the question, which it seems to be I'm looking for the PLG motion on correlated on getcorrelated.com. So I see that there's two CTAs for see a demo and get started. Pretty pretty classic. So I imagine that get started is going to be my sandbox. When I get here though, it says time to set up your free account and I see the Calendly. Can you help me understand, is there a way for me to just get my hands on this now
Yep. Yeah, for
without
sure.
booking?
Yeah,
Okay.
so actually, that CTA is changing this afternoon. So
Oh,
you
okay.
beat it
Oh,
by a
great
couple of
timing.
hours. But what that does today is that sets you up with an onboarding call. So that's not
Hmm.
secretly a demo hidden behind a button. That actually what we do is after you fill out that calendar today, it would
Hmm.
be we'd be whitelisting your account. You'd be able to log into it, and then we would have that call on the calendar just to make sure that everything was integrated properly and make sure you don't have any questions or anything along the way. But what we're going to
Okay.
be doing is actually this will change into a quick form where you can put in your email and name. We'll whitelist your account, and then you'll get access to the product right there. So we're moving
Gotcha.
quickly uh, into self service, which is very exciting.
Okay. And so wait, what's changing in a few hours from now?
Yeah. So at that point, you'll be able to get straight into the product rather than waiting for that
Oh,
onboarding
got you.
call.
Yeah, okay. All right. So you're really going to be truly walking the walk in a few hours, right?
Yes, we'll be testing it out, and
All right.
it's always a test
Good
along the
luck with
way, just
that.
like any marketing, growth, or other campaign. Right. So we'll have this new
Yeah.
flow. We'll see how it works. Are we able to get value for folks? Is it a
Hmm.
better experience for them? I mean, ultimately, we want to be a fully self serve company. So people can just get right started in the product if they'd like to. And if they'd rather have a demo and a sales conversation, that's totally fine too. It's sort of like a choose your own
Yeah.
adventure. The only reason we're not that
Yeah.
today is actually not to block anybody from using the product. It's just prioritization on the engineering side and wanting to make sure that we're really making sure everybody has a good experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good luck with that. And I'm going to make a note to come back and check in a few hours from now and see how that looks because I'd
Perfect.
love to play around with it. And I really do enjoy going into various different types of trials and product led growth experiences and just trying to understand how they're trying to get me to that first value. And I think this concept of time to first value, I believe, is a really important KPI in that kind of setting.
Oh, for sure.
So there, you could just say it's a light bulb moment, or it's that moment where someone really has their primary pain point not necessarily solved, but they can see that this is going to solve that primary pain point. And I think SaaS buyers are really changing because you have such more complex tech stacks. Most companies have lots of SaaS products in their mix, and it's getting complicated. And so that also changes the buying process because as you get more and more comfortable with this stack of SaaS tools that you're using, and presumably they're all integrated with each other. You don't really need an hour demo call anymore to make these decisions because you're getting more familiar and you just know I need this thing to fit into my tech stack this way and solve this particular pain point that my current tech stack isn't really doing. And so I just need to get my hands on it and see if it's going to do it or if it's not, and I can probably figure this out in a few minutes. And that might be a 5,000 person company, enterprise, but that buyer prefers the product led growth experience as opposed to the classic demo. And is there any way also that someone can immediately, through some form of enrichment, see when a big whale comes through, not through a high touch sales flow, but they come through the product led growth side? Is there a way for that also just to pop up and say, hey, you just have IBM just signed up for a free trial, and you can have a salesperson just doing personalized outreach immediately. Is that?
Yeah,
something that you all
that's
do?
one of the things that we're helping sales teams with today. So um,
Hmm.
when you think of this product led motion, what a lot of times people are doing is when that person signs up, they're doing a lot of enrichment on their end. So they might have something like a Clearbit, and they're enriching that lead because a lot of times when
Hmm.
people sign up, they'll use a personal email. So, or they'll just be a single user of with a business email. And so then by enriching it, you get all the company size, company name, domain, all that information that you need.
Hmm.
And what Correlated does is we're plugging into all your different data systems, right, and tying all that data together. So if that
Hmm.
lead comes in, then you're enriching it on your end, which is actually something we're talking about doing down the line is doing that enrichment for folks as well, um,
Oh,
which would be
amazing.
like even
Yeah.
better.
That makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But so they're enriching it already today. A lot of companies are. So there's not necessarily a need for that quite yet. But I think as we go down the line, there'll be more of a need for it.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that person comes in, they might land in your CRM. Some other product like companies are actually not having that data flow right into your CRM, which is interesting. Some are having it go into a data warehouse, something like a Snowflake, just because the quantity is so high that they would be paying for
Oh,
a ridiculous amount of storage. And so then when that
okay.
comes in,
Well,
yeah, we
that's a
plug
good
into all
problem to have,
those.
right?
Yeah,
Good for
exactly.
them.
We plug into all of those systems, and then we plug into like whatever you're collecting product usage data. So like your segment
Yeah.
or anywhere
Oh,
else.
yeah. You all should totally go into enrichment. That's such a logical next step.
Yeah, I think it would
Just
be
bring
like
that
an
right in.
additional
Yeah, yeah.
integration for it. So like today we already integrate with if you have Clearbit, we'll integrate with your
Yeah.
Clearbit. But it's something we're considering on the partnership side as well, so that we can just offer it out of the
Yeah,
box.
totally. I mean, you've got the actions, you've got actions and triggers that people take based on their behavior and their early engagement. These are great predictors. But then when you just simply have a profile that comes right in and you can immediately say, "Oh wow, we just landed a whale through I mean, somebody this whale company just came in a free trial and have an immediate alert that whoa, we need to keep a really close eye on this. We might consider picking up the phone right away
Yeah,
and reaching out or something. Um, but that's such a key piece of the puzzle, which is that having the immediate alert that boom, we just got a whale through a free trial, and now we need to all just take a look and decide who's reaching out, what are we going to do, and then if that doesn't happen, then just looking at the usage, the signals and the engagement with the product. And this is so interesting, and I think it's very different for different companies. So it's also not a one size fits all. So you can't just say, I don't know, when they add the payment information, when they add the credit card
yep,
information, that's when I don't know, that's when your predicted lifetime value triples or something. It's not that simple, and I think with different products, it's different things. I remember talking to somebody. It escapes me, but the example definitely stuck with me. And their highest predictive signal was somebody that created a profile picture, somebody that just
mm-hmm.
simply uploaded a profile picture because it represented a psychological commitment to the product that
That could be like
they
a
were
Calendly,
going to.
honestly.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that made so much sense. Yeah, that when you're actually putting your face when you're replacing when you're putting your face into the profile picture, that means that you're kind of investing in building out a nice profile, and it's a strong signal of being committed to the product.
Yeah.
So that leads me to the next question. I'm dying to ask you, what are the one or two primary signals for correlated that would highly indicate that you're going to get a future paying customer in
Yeah,
the first,
I was
say, first few days of usage?
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up actually. So the idea of signals, that's one of the big things that we do. And you're exactly right when you say it's different for every single company, right? So um, for the example of that gigantic whale company coming in and self-serving, we might have a signal set up that, if, like someone from this list of companies or over company size, self-serves, we want to be notified immediately. So that's something that could
Hmm.
be one of your signals. And that's something that we're doing for a bunch of teams. We're doing for ourselves as well. The other things, so
Hmm.
it can basically be like as wide or as narrow as you'd like. And as
Hmm.
as the company evolves, I like to call it like the Goldilocks, is that it changes. So you might have a really wide net. Like a startup might just say, I want to know everybody who signs up. Now, you probably shouldn't be reaching out to every single person who signs up regardless, because you need to let them have a little bit of their own product journey. But I want to know when
Hmm.
everybody signs up. That could be a signal. Or I want to know when they invite another user, or when they click on this feature, or I want to
Hmm.
know maybe when their usage has increased. So like I want to know, if their usage has been over X amount in the last week or month, or has increased or decreased in some way. And
Hmm.
that's actually one of the, just for a point of reference, that's one of the big differentiators with using something like Correlated, is being able to see change over time. So like if you're
Hmm.
using like a BI dashboard, or trying to pipe data into your CRM, that's something that you're missing out on, is that change over time. So
Yep,
you wouldn't be able
totally.
to see like increases or decreases. But yeah, so those signals, and then sometimes for big companies who have a ton of inbound, or not even big companies, because tiny companies can have a ton of inbound as well and a bunch of signups into their product. But you can get really
Hmm.
specific on what those different signals could be. So if you have a wide signal that's like, when they've invited more than 3 users to collaborate, maybe there's a bunch of people doing that. And so you sort of automate that piece of the outreach. But for something like, hey, I want to know when they've used this dashboard, when they've, you know, for us, it would be like created signals, when they've created a certain amount of
Hmm.
signals, when they have
Yeah, we're getting
integrated
meta.
like
We're
a
getting a little bit meta
workflow.
here.
Yeah. And so when they, you can start to layer
Mhm.
on not just the CRM data, but product usage too. So you could have different, so it doesn't just have to be, sign-ins and one thing from your CRM. It can be multiple layers of, firmographic or demographic data, and
Hmm.
multiple layers of things that they're doing in your product. So you could say, they signed in the last week, they invited a new user, and they tried out, they created a
Hmm.
signal. Great. Okay, now
Yeah,
notify me when that happens.
gotcha. This is all really making me think now about machine learning. And the question I have now is, how does somebody that just got their hands on Correlated, how do they even know what signals to create? Aren't they just guessing at the beginning?
So
Because
we'll,
they don't know what's going to actually predict lifetime value unless they've run, some machine learning models on it
yeah,
and gotten really complex. Probably they haven't. So how do they even know where to start?
it is definitely like a testing process in the beginning. But I will say
Hmm.
that every team always comes in with some idea of what works, right? Like it's not, they've been,
Uh-huh.
they haven't been fully just shooting in the dark, but at the same time, it's been pretty dark for
Yeah.
lack of a better analogy. But, so there's some understanding of what things people are doing in your product, or what actions that they take that might signify a sale. So generally they'll come in with, hey, I know when they do this, we seem to close more. Or when they come in
Hmm.
for this product of ours, the close is a lot higher than when they come in for this product of ours. So taking
Yeah.
that sort of information, and then we work closely with every company that comes in. And so we'll help them to understand, hey, what are other companies doing that might be a fit here? But also based on the information that you shared with us, let's set up these signals and start to test those out. And part of that test is to find that Goldilocks. So is the volume too high? Is the volume
Yeah.
too low? And let's, open and close those parameters.
Yeah. Yeah. So you all do consult companies to help them get started with, hopefully, with the right kind of signals so that they start to see some value. I
Yep.
mean, you can do that
We offer
at
that
some
for
point.
free,
You probably have.
actually.
Yeah, that's I was going to ask. I mean, how can you really do that with all the customers? Is it really possible?
Yeah.
This
I
type
mean,
of one-on-one consulting?
yeah, it's just, if you prioritize it, you can make it happen, right? So
Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah.
priority for us to make sure that everyone
Hmm.
is successful. And because this is so new, we want to guide them in the right direction. People don't have
Yeah.
a different solution that then they're saying, oh, we, have these signals that we already look at. Let's just toss them in here. Some companies have homegrown solutions. Great. Then we'll use what they've already built homegrown,
Hmm.
and take it to the next level of Correlated. But most of the time, and vast majority of the
Yeah.
time, this is just a new spot for them. And so we want to make sure that we want to make sure that they're super
Don't worry about it.
successful.
Hey, isn't isn't the holy grail of all this ultimately having something that can predict lifetime value as early as possible in the customer journey?
Yes. I mean, we want to help surface where the best conversion rates are and where you can
Hmm.
improve those conversion rates. So conversion rates
Hmm.
are huge in product-led growth companies because
Yeah.
a small and they've always been big across marketing, and that's something we talk about a lot. But when you move into a product-led growth company, one small tweak in a conversion rate, because generally the volume is so high, is like
Hmm.
a vast difference in what your revenue is going to look
Yeah,
like.
yeah, it's like that bullwhip effect, I guess, right? When you have a little bit of a tweak at the handle, and then it just ripples way out, and then it has massive downstream. It has a massive, oh, totally.
Yeah,
Not to mention that you also with product-led growth, you suddenly have a smorgasbord of micro conversions at your disposal. You can identify events and you can tag all sorts of things.
especially if you have that
And
product usage, then you've like, yeah, it's like,
yeah, yeah. So, somebody that creates three signals in a 24-hour period, you can say that that's a conversion event, and I might even bring that back into my Google Ads. If that's the thing, if that's the signal, or if that's the group of signals, which has a high correlation to lifetime value, which is where I still believe you need some machine learning ultimately to tell you that. But then you can say, all right, I'm gonna now actually create a custom conversion event from that in my Google Analytics, and I'm going to port that back into Google Ads. And instead of optimizing all of my ad spend for a free trial sign up, which happens at, let's just say that happens at time zero. Oh, but now I'm going to look at within 24 hours, anybody that's going to create up to three unique signals in my product, because that is I don't know, maybe that's an 85% predictor of a high lifetime value, a future high lifetime value customer. And the exciting thing really now for me is, how does this now connect back to acquisition marketing? Because I think your product is focused on helping salespeople be more successful in identifying the best sales opportunities so that they spend their time the best way possible. But there's a whole other aspect. If these signals ultimately can be shown to predict lifetime value, then they can greatly improve acquisition marketing at the front end of the whole process. So when somebody signs up, you can enrich the data and you can see that there's a whale in XYZ, but you can also see that within 24 hours, if they created those three unique signals, if they shared the product with three colleagues, or if they did whatever it is that you really, really want them to do, not only do you have sales, you trigger outreach sequences, you trigger sales and all that other stuff, but that you actually redefine your conversion event that
yep,
all of the Google Ads and Facebook Ads AI is aiming at, and you actually have them bidding dynamically for those people that Google knows are going to do those events. I, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here. Does this make any sense to you? Are you all talking about
yes.
this at Correlated?
Yes, definitely. So you're
Okay.
totally right, right? Like we sell into the sales org. But that being
Hmm.
said, they almost always immediately end up saying, hey, marketing would get a lot of value out of this too. So we
Totally.
we pretty much
Yeah.
immediately end up also working with the marketing team. And debatably also like they'll bring in CS and other teams as well. But there's totally a marketing use case for it here. To
Hmm.
understand exactly where those conversion rates are. So, and I think a company who is doing this not based on product usage data, but has been doing this based on your CRM data. Metadata is the name of the company. And so what they do is they help to optimize your ads based on the stages that people hit in your CRM. So like they're basically
Yeah.
tying your ad spend to revenue. But to be able to then use something like Correlated that helps you to understand where you could um, optimize for these different levels of conversion, and it could be leveled out as well, like it doesn't just have to be one conversion. There could be a lot of different conversion pieces that you could be
Oh,
focusing it on.
absolutely. That's the best way to do it, actually, is if you can create several different micro conversions, we call them, and you can assign nominal values to them. You bring all those conversion events into Google Ads, and you do something like a maximize conversion value, which is one of their newest value-based bidding methods. and you just say, look, I have 12 conversions of different values, and it's everything from a free trial sign up is worth, I don't know, $3, and then the person that does those three creates those three signals in 24 hours. Well, that's golden. So we're gonna value that at $150 or whatever. I mean, statistically, you can figure out with data about, based on probabilities, about what each of these micro conversions are worth. You bring them all into Google Ads, and instead of just trying to figure out we want to optimize for this one or this other one, you just tell Google these are all my conversion events that have values. These are the values, and maximize it. I'm going to give you the budget. You maximize conversion value, and then the ROAS looks pretty black and white after that,
Hmm.
really. And then you have, it's not just for SaaS companies, but especially for SaaS companies doing this well. When you have clarity on ROAS, then you can scale so much faster because you have the confidence to invest more money into those platforms, and you're not really guessing anymore. All right, of this $100,000 that I spent in acquisitions this month, I know 40% of that's wasted because my churn rate's 40%, my trial churn rate's 40%. So inevitably, I've thrown away $40,000. But in this new reality, you can actually eliminate a lot of that wasted spend. It's a game changer, really.
Yeah, one of the other big marketing use cases here too in using this product usage data is that in a product like growth company, you want to let the user be able to have that product experience. So you want to let them sign up and get their hands dirty and start to click a few buttons and start to get that value for themselves. But as they do that and as they click these different buttons, there might be ways that you could be adding value to them. And I think that's a big use case for marketing as well, is to say, you know, or if we know that if they create these three signals in the first 24 hours, that we can help to sort of like push them towards that behavior, if it makes
Yeah.
sense, or like support them along the way to make those
Yep.
behaviors. So as they're clicking around, we can see places where they're getting stuck, places where they might be like missing out, on different opportunities to use the product in a more
Yeah.
effective way. And so
Yep.
you can kick off different campaigns and things based on how people actually use your product. So
You
one piece of
really,
it
I
is
think
getting
you
people
really,
in. The other side is once they're in, how do we help them there too?
yeah. It actually can help you to redesign your whole onboarding. If it's clear that conversion event of, let's just say the example that we keep using throughout here is those three signal events created in 24 hours. If that is your best predictor, so then why not, instead of, if that's sitting at step 4 in your onboarding flow, whatever, I don't know, whatever that might look like, it might be in the product, it might be through email nurture, or both. Well, let's try to move it up to step 2 or maybe step 1, because that appears to be, that is the moment of value capture for the business. So let's redesign the new customer onboarding or the new trial user onboarding flow to try to get that happening earlier in the process, so that instead of maybe only 60% of the people who currently get to step 4, maybe we can move that up to step 2 and it's 80%. And so I think that the also empowering the product teams, especially during these onboarding phases where people are in trials, and this is such a critical moment. I mean, that trial period, that's also another huge benefit. Um, yeah, I think we could go on forever about this stuff. What we're trying to do a lot now is to try to use really machine learning to try to predict the things that are gonna really correlate most strongly with lifetime value. And I think what we're missing, and we're not a SaaS company, but what we're missing is actually a tool that can give us hypotheses, that a tool that can allow us to build better hypotheses, because most of the time we don't know what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we might have a we might have a mountain of data that we're sitting on top of, and all the tools in the world to do some amazing machine learning on it. But if you don't have a good hypothesis, it starts with a hypothesis. So I think what Correlated can do is it allows you to rapid test through different product usage and signal creation. It allows you to build early hypotheses, which you can then decide. Now I have a strong hypothesis about three three of these three of these things in 24 hours. Now that's what we're going to model on, and that's what we're going to test against. So I think also not only okay, so you've got I don't know the beneficiary or the persona. Clearly, it's sales. Clearly, it's marketing. Clearly, it's product. Now it's also the data science team, and these people have data scientists as well. And you can tell them, all right, if you want to have more confidence in your hypothesis building, here's the way to do it. I mean, just start messing around with these signals
Yeah,
and
for
building them.
companies that we're talking to who have um, built some version and or like the starting phases of what Correlated would like unlock for them, basically they are pulling all their product usage data, then they're sorting it, cleaning it up, they're putting it into BI dashboards. They have an entire like data team to back up what they're doing today. And so but if they want to make like one tweak, like maybe they want to add in companies that are over 100 employees, and before it used to be 250 employees or something, you have to send the whole data
Hmm.
team back to rerun everything and like basically start from scratch.
Yeah.
And so one of the big things that we're doing is, you know, we're first of all trying to come to the table with some ideas on, hey, this is what other companies are doing, like basically help to give you some of those hypotheses. And we are starting to build some of that out of the box into the product as well. So you can just start to play around with the ideas on your own. But then the other thing that we're doing is making it's like a speeding up of the data team process. I mean, in some ways we
Hmm.
could be seen as like a support to the data team, and for other teams maybe who don't already have data teams set up and working on this, we can just let them focus on all the other projects that they're focused on, and we can take over
Yeah.
on this data side.
Hmm.
um, and so yeah, it's for every company though. I think, we can help come up with hypotheses. They can also help to come up with hypotheses, but it's always going to be a testing and measurement game,
Yeah.
because you want to find that Goldilocks. It's going to be too hot, it's going to be
Hmm.
too cold, and you got to find the middle. And then once you find it, and assuming that you're a growing company, in 3 to 6 months, that's going to change again. So it is something that's always being
Yeah.
tested and changed, or slightly tweaked. So it's not all getting just thrown in the trash, but there are tweaks that need to continually be made over time. So it's always a learning process.
Yeah. Which makes correlated pretty sticky, doesn't it? Because yeah, you can't just it's not a one and done. I mean, once you find Goldilocks, as you say, well, Goldilocks might change. Your market's changing, and 3 months from now, we say this even with SEO. I mean, you don't just do SEO once on your website. I mean,
Exactly.
you have to maintain it. There's a hygiene element to it. Things are dynamic. Yeah. Um, this is great, Breezy. There's probably 100 other questions that I have for you, but I think probably we'll have to leave it to the next time. Um, what did I not ask you today that you'd like to share with our audience?
That's a good question. I'd say one thing that usually people end up asking, either from the sales or marketing perspective, either one, is like, what is the future of marketing in this product led world, and what is the future of sales in this product led world? I'll just address sales quickly and then move to marketing. I mean, on the sales
Hmm.
side, there's this misconception that if you have a PLG company, you don't need sales. If you look at any successful PLG company, they have sales somewhere. And if they don't, then they're probably currently implementing it. I've talked to
Hmm.
people at some of
Yeah.
the largest publicly traded PLG companies that you could think of, and there needs to always be a sales motion as well. What the difference is that sales becomes more consultative. They're focused on the success of the customer, so there's definitely a converging with customer success and sales. So the role is slightly different, but it's definitely still there and very much alive.
Hmm.
It would be a misconception to think that just because you create a great product that everyone will find it. That's not the case. And then, on the
Hmm.
marketing side of that, marketing's job changes because we're no longer trying to get just like leads in the door to have a sales conversation. Your job is to get people into the product. And so the way that you are engaging with people doesn't fully change. Like the core of marketing is to be where your customers are, be where your prospects are, to add value, to be a thought leader, and fill in that knowledge gap that people might have and educate the market. So all of those things that good marketers are doing. None of that has changed, but the difference is that now, since you're getting people into the product, you need to have a really solid understanding of what your product does, how people can benefit from it, what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of your product, because you want to direct people in a way that they're going to be successful. You don't want to just bring people in who are going to churn, which is something that I think a lot of marketers hadn't had to think about, because there was sort of this like curtain up that they didn't always see that end result. And there's been a move towards marketers focusing on revenue, which helps, but in a product led company, all the curtains are up.
Hmm.
You can see everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. And I can really relate to that. I think we're seeing that a little bit with, well, in the digital agency space as well, and with and also with digital marketers who are in-house at companies. People are worried that, all right, as AI becomes more and more prevalent, and it clearly does a better job of certain tasks than humans, what's left for us humans? And actually, there's a whole lot left. Actually, the job just becomes more strategic. It's less focused on figuring out how to bid for a particular keyword, and it's more about how to figure out how to do a better segmentation of an audience, or how to get better first party data from a CRM, or from a marketing automation tool, or from product usage data back into the platform. So how to feed the platforms with what the AI needs, instead of trying to do what the AI already can do better. And I think this is just another example that when you're moving to an environment where there's a large volume of data, and just um, AI is going to be leading the way, and there's always going to be a role for sales, as you say. It's more consultative, and for marketing, it's figuring out, like you said, not just how do we get leads into salespeople, get these demos booked and fill up all those calendars of the salespeople, but how do we actually embed marketing into the product? How do we actually communicate the value proposition, not on a landing page, or in an email newsletter, or the old-fashioned ways, but how can we actually communicate that through the way that we onboard people inside of the product itself, through the step one, step two, step three process, or through our tool tips inside of the product, or whatever it might be. So it's exciting. I mean, I think it's always exciting when people are in a way forced to be a little bit uncomfortable, and have their roles evolve. And we're at that point now. So the best sales and marketers are I think they get it, and they're going to do fine.
Yeah. I think if you're staying on your toes and continue to educate yourself and learn about the market changes and and learn about your
Hmm.
buyers and learn from your customers, please marketers, like you have to be listening to the customers. But as long as
Yeah,
as long as you stay curious, you're going to be great.
you said it. Curiosity. It's always the number one thing. All right, Breezy. Well, let's wrap it up on that. Thanks so much for being with me today, and I hope you'll come back another time in the future. There's a lot more we can talk about, and otherwise, best of luck to you at Correlated.
Thanks, Paris. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Bye.